What if the man who slaughtered 20 million souls was reborn into the very bloodline that struck him down? And what if his only weapon left was the one thing nobody expected from a monster: patience? This is the story of the necromancer they called the demon of the continent, a man who built an army of the dead out of pure, unfiltered rage. 200 years ago, a plague swept across the north and killed 20 million people. The empire watched and did nothing. So he raised every single one of the dead and marched on the empire that let them die. 10 years of war followed. Blood, ash, and silence where cities used to be. And in the end, it wasn't an army that stopped him. It was one knight, one sword, one idea he couldn't argue with. Now, 2 centuries later, he's opened his eyes again. In a new body, in a dying family, in the house of the man who killed him. And this time, he's not here to destroy anything. He's here to rebuild what his own death was supposed to protect. Let's get into it. The scene opens on a frozen battlefield, snow-soaked red. Bodies scattered as far as the eye can see. In the middle of it, a man lies dying, a holy sword driven clean through his chest. Around him, knights of the order murmur in disbelief. They finally caught him, the demon of the continent, Archmond, the greatest necromancer alive. And as he stares up at the gray sky, Archmond realizes for the first time in 10 years that this might actually be it. His mind drifts back through everything that led here. A war that lasted a full decade, fought across every corner of the continent. Elite squads slipping behind his lines while the Imperial army crushed him from the front. He built defenses for exactly this kind of attack. And still, it wasn't enough. One man walks toward him through the wreckage, calm, unshaken, sword still dripping. Berkel Heinland, leader of the Northern Knights. He tells Archmond something simple, almost gentle. He didn't win this with his own strength alone. Countless soldiers bled and held the line so his blade could finally reach him. Then he asked Archmond to give up, for the sake of peace on the continent. Archmond doesn't take that well. He screams at him to shut his mouth. These are the same people who stood by and watched 20 million die of plague. And now they dare beg for peace. He calls them worse than animals, hypocrites hiding behind shining armor. And he swears he'll kill every last one of them with his own hands. His power surges, and the knights around him flinch back in horror. Someone shouts a warning. If they don't finish him now, this could go very wrong. But Berkel doesn't move. He simply says, "That's enough." And he starts to explain something Archmond never expected to hear. 20 million people fell to the plague. He used necromancy to turn every single one of them into his army. That was the spark that lit this entire war. Archmond scoffs. Does he think he doesn't already know that? People from his own hometown are probably among those 20 million corpses. All he wants, all he's ever wanted, is revenge. Is that so wrong, Berkel? Berkel's face goes completely still. He tells him he has only one reason to keep fighting: the future of the children. Archmond freezes. What does that even mean? Something in his body locks up, colder than the snow around them. Berkel repeats it. For the sake of the next generation, that's his reason to fight. And in that moment, Archmond sees his own defeated reflection staring back at him. A gaze completely different from his own, pure, unshaken, impossibly clean. Something in that clarity breaks him more than any sword could. His elemental barrier shatters, and he simply drops to his knees. "Now you can kill me," he says. And the entire battlefield goes silent. Berkel actually lowers his sword. The knights behind him panic, warning that discarding the sacred sword like that could kill him too. But Berkel walks up calmly and asks if he has any last words. Archmond only tells him that necromancers don't die that easily. A second later, his head is already on the ground. And in his final moment, all he hears is his own severed head hitting the earth. That was the end of the Great War. 10 years, gone in a single swing. And that was the end of Archmond, the demon of the continent. Time passes. A storm rolls over a grand mansion on a thundering night. The maids inside are practically giddy, whispering that the young master's lips just moved. They have absolutely no idea what's actually living inside that baby's head. They call him young master, showing him his own mother, the Duchess, begging him to say mama. Inside that tiny skull, Archmond can only think one thing: this body is unbelievably heavy. The maids keep cooing at him, still pushing for that first word. And when he finally opens his mouth to speak, he screams out a full necromancy chant: "Guardians of darkness, soldiers, obey your master." The maids don't giggle after that. They scream. 15 years pass in a blink. And those same maids are once again completely obsessed, gushing over how gorgeous their young master has become. One of them even asks what he eats to look this good. Before he can answer, a bucket of ice water crashes down on his head. A massive man stands behind him, ordering the evil spirit to step back. This brute is Garrison Berkman, a priest of the Holy Order. He mutters that it's strange. A moment ago, the boy had Archmond's exact expression. 3 other people have already been possessed. Thankfully, purification came just in time for him. Our boy fires back that it's not easy telling that many lies with that much confidence. Doesn't he ever get tired of this purification nonsense? Garrison insists it isn't nonsense. Archmond's soul still lingers in this young body, so the wicked soul must be purified regularly. The boy shoots back that he isn't Archmond. And there it is again, Garrison says. That exact demon expression. Our boy privately decides this man is completely, irreversibly insane. He tries to slip away without provoking him. Naturally, a priest this obsessed notices everything. He orders his men to grab the boy for the crime of insolence and drench him in holy water. Bear. Our boy begs him to stop. He's said this 1,000 times already. He is not Archmond. His name is Clen, and this, believe it or not, has been his life for 15 straight years. He genuinely didn't expect things to turn out like this. He knows for certain he died that day. His head was cut clean off. But when he opened his eyes again, he was inside the body of a newborn. And of all things, the first words that came out of him were a necromancy chant. So the moment he turned 3, he was locked away in a monastery as an evil spirit. Eventually he met this so-called priest of the Holy Order. And little did he know, that would be the beginning of his personal disaster. 24-hour prayer chants, frozen garlic baths, purification fireworks shows, you name it. He lived through it. 5 years into this nightmare, our boy sits there wearing a paper party hat, thoroughly defeated. Beside him, his personal maid, Arn, hopes he'll grow into a fine descendant of the hero. She prays through the Holy Spirit that he'll be purified soon. Furious, he grabs the party hat and throws it on the ground. Arn looks crushed. She made that hat herself. Our boy immediately feels terrible for overreacting on someone with such small, hard-working hands. He apologizes to her, saying he crossed a line. But when he goes to pick the hat back up, Arn reveals it wasn't actually her idea. It was Father Garrison who made it. That freezes him instantly, and just as he turns to burn the thing to ashes, Garrison appears in front of him. He's practically in tears, calling him young master, move that Clen used the hat so passionately. He wear upon it for a full week. Our boy tells him flatly he will never wear it again in his life, and destroys it completely. Garrison declares that the wicked side of Archmond has appeared again. Our boy mutters under his breath exactly what he thinks of Archmond. In the middle of the argument, someone enters, bowing to the priest and asking if the purification is over. It's Dunkel, captain of the Red Carriage Knights. He mentions the rumors about young Master Clen being Archmond have circled for over 10 years now, and the Order has apparently said there's no more issue with it, which stuns both of them. Garrison, of course, agrees instantly with the captain, promising to take all the time he needs. Clen watches this and thinks the psychopath didn't even pretend to listen when I was talking. But he sure knows how to flatter a captain. Garrison finally turns to leave, but not before warning that the next purification ritual is on Friday. Our boy mutters at him to get out, you psychopath. With Garrison finally gone, Clen wonders if a real priest can actually torture someone like this for 5 years straight. This guy feels more like a muscular demon than a man of faith. Innocent little Arn walks up and asks if he's really, truly not Archmond anymore. He tells her, with total certainty, no, he never wants to hear that name again. Though deep down, he knows exactly what kind of torture would follow if he admitted otherwise. He should be focused on recovering his real power, not surviving purification rituals. Ever since reviving, he's lived under constant surveillance because of rumors from his infancy. 7 years locked in a monastery just for being born with a bad reputation. He's genuinely furious about it, though he thought coming back to the duchy would finally be a relief. Instead, this priest gets to follow him around like a shadow. Captain Dunkel explains that Garrison isn't just a priest. He's technically a procurator. Arn, curious, asks what that even means. Dunkel says it's a title given to the strongest warrior in the Order. A person with power so overwhelming, only a duke of their own family could hope to face him. Arn lights up, saying the young master's family must be incredibly strong. Dunkel just laughs it off, agreeing, sure, something like that. But what she really wants to know is who the strongest duke in family history was. Dunkel says the others were all excellent, but it's probably the current 7th Duke. Our boy interrupts, no, it was the 1st Duke. Dunkel blinks. What do you mean, the 1st? Isn't his own father the 7th Duke? Clen says no. The 1st Duke was stronger than all of them. Dunkel's expression turns serious, and after a moment, he says he understands. Arn turns to him and asks if the young master really admires the 1st Duke that much. He's been staring at that portrait for a while now. In his own head, Clen thinks admire is a strong word. Truthfully, he never imagined this outcome. Dunkel adds that it's been 200 years since the first Duke founded this family. Our boy sits with that number, 200 years. He still can't fully accept it, but he supposes he has to eventually. Archmond, the legendary necromancer, would now be well over 2 centuries old, and 7 generations of dukes have come and gone since then. The first duke, the one he considers the strongest, is none other than Berkel Heinland himself, the former leader of the Order of Knights. This is the true beginning of the new Archmond, born as a descendant of his own killer. The next day, our boy wakes up sweating from a nightmare of the exact day he died. Berkel's voice still echoes in his ears, for the future of the children. He mutters to himself that it was a terrible dream, then remembers exactly who he is. His name is Archmond, a legendary necromancer once feared as the demon of the continent. And though it's ancient history now, in one moment of blind fury, he nearly wiped out the entire continent. In the end, he died by the hand of the Northern Knight, Berkel Heinland. But when he opened his eyes again, 200 years had passed. He'd been reborn as a descendant of that very man, memories fully intact. The one thing he still can't get used to is this ridiculous white hair. While he's muttering to himself, Garrison walks into the room. He comments that Clen was talking a lot in his sleep, and asks if he was dreaming of his old days as Archmond. Our boy thinks, this lunatic really does treat me like Archmond after everything. He needs to keep denying it as hard as he possibly can in front of this man. Nervously, he says he's just been feeling tired lately. Incredibly, Arn pops out from under the bed, announcing she heard every word he said in his sleep. She starts imitating him. Something like, "Demon of the continent, kill them all. Archmond commands you." Panicked, Clen tells her to be quiet and demands to know when exactly he said that. Meanwhile, Garrison is seriously considering doubling today's purification session. Just then, the butler Berkman walks in, announcing the swordsmanship demonstration is starting soon. Garrison finally decides, thanking Arn for her report, saying it seems young Master Clen will need extra purification time. Our boy is furious, telling him to knock it off already, "You psychopath." A few hours later, Clen, Arn, and Berkman walk through the mansion together. He asks what exactly a swordsmanship demonstration even is, and why he's suddenly invited. Berkman tells him the members of the secondary families have arrived to this time. Our boy thinks of them instantly as a pack of annoying leeches who show up whenever it suits them. And sure enough, they start eyeing him with pure contempt. Some of them mockingly call him Big Brother Archmond, laughing about the 7 years he spent locked away. They ask if he has any good stories, joking he might curse them if he's not careful. Watching these people, Clen realizes they're all distant cousins, paternal and maternal branches. Endless faces he barely recognizes. One girl standing off to the side catches his eye. He tries to remember exactly who she is. Behind him, more relatives start muttering that the disgrace can't even hear them. They ask, bitterly, if he really thinks he belongs to the Heinland name, growing angrier when he keeps ignoring them. He thinks, honestly, this family is a joke. He doesn't even remember half their names. The reason these distant, forgettable relatives feel bold enough to act this way is simple. The main family, the one he was born into, is falling apart, and the fact that they'd openly ignore him, a direct heir, says everything about how far they've fallen. As he walks on, he notices a duel happening in the arena between 2 young knights. The blue-haired one taunts the blonde one, telling him to stop holding back and actually fight. The blonde, Delaney, calmly tells him the fight is already over. Furious, Dalton snaps that it isn't finished yet. Delaney, with unshaken eyes, simply asks, "Is that so?" Watching from above, our boy thinks if this family has any hope left, it's him. Delaney Heinland, firstborn son, prodigy of the family, his own half-brother. And it's probably thanks to Delaney alone that this family's swordsmanship reputation still means anything. Down in the arena, Dalton snarls that this time it'll be different. Our boy keeps watching, and something in his eyes sharpens. It's the first time he's seen real swordplay since coming back as Clen. He starts memorizing every single motion, absorbing it completely. To everyone's shock, Delaney dodges the strike and appears instantly behind Dalton. Our boy watches and realizes he can see everything. Footwork, timing, ground pressure, even the flow of mana. He recognizes it as the family's secret technique, the meteor sword. Delaney finishes the technique, sending Dalton's sword flying, ending the duel in an instant. His brother remarks it was Dalton who was actually in trouble, just as he warned. The secondary family members whisper that this really is the meteor sword. Impressive to pull off in front of a crowd like this. It's a clear message. The Heinland name still means something. Meanwhile, our boy sits with a strange question in his mind. What exactly did he just see in his own eyes? Delaney walks over, asking how long he's been standing there. Clen says he just arrived, and his brother tells him he should have said something. He'd have tried harder knowing his younger brother was watching. Watching Delaney up close, Clen thinks, this guy is perfect at literally everything. Skill, looks, personality, all of it. Confused, he asks Delaney why the secondary families showed up again. Worried they're here to squeeze more money out of them. Before Delaney can answer, another figure approaches, praising Delaney for mastering that technique at such a young age. The seventh patriarch of the Heinland family arrives, Berkel Heinland. Our boy recognizes his father's voice instantly. He thinks Delaney is probably the last shred of pride this man has left. Behind the patriarch, the captain remarks that mana efficiency and precision like that shouldn't even be possible for a knight his age. Embarrassed by the praise, Delaney insists he's still not good enough. The patriarch reminds him that a Heinland knight must always be the empire's finest. Those were the founding duke's final words. He should carve them into his heart. Delaney thanks his father, and the patriarch turns to his second son. He touches Clen's head, examining him, noting he still can't feel any mana from him. Our boy simply says he's sorry, while privately knowing this so-called father only shows disappointment when there's expectation to begin with. Now that his potential vanished, he's nothing but a useless burden. The captain quietly apologizes for young Master Clen, noting his crucial training years were lost inside the monastery. The secondary family members whisper that the second son of Heinland has no mana at all. They wonder how the direct bloodline turned out to be so weak. Berkel tells Clen it's fine. There are other pots besides the sword. Clen thinks he genuinely doesn't care about insults aimed at himself. But hearing that the Heinland family is basically finished, that stings. Even after death, that fool risked everything for people this mediocre and short-sighted. After a brief exchange, the three walk off, leaving our boy alone. Dalton appears behind him, sneering that the Heinland heir apparently can't even hold a sword properly, and yet acts like he's something special just because of his bloodline. Really, he's nothing but an embarrassment to the family. Clen instantly identifies this brat as Dalton Conwell, a lowly member of a secondary family. He fires back that seducing girls backstage at balls must be a real point of pride for his family. Furious, Dalton demands how he knows that. Clen asked if he really thought throwing money at a problem would stop the rumors from spreading. He wonders aloud if the boy is naive or just plain stupid. When Dalton lunges at him, our boy simply steps aside, letting him trip and fall flat on his face. Furious and humiliated, Dalton scrambles up as Clen calmly walks away. Clen tells him he's just taking his anger out on him because Delaney beat him earlier. Dalton explodes, screaming that he's a bastard who doesn't even know who his own mother is. That stops our boy cold. What did he just say? It's not that he cares about a mother he barely knew, but the cheap superiority in Dalton's voice makes something in him snap. He wonders how a family could fall this far. How the bloodline of the hero who killed the demon of the continent could end up this rotten. Before the fight escalates, the captain arrives, telling Dalton that's enough. He warns Dalton he won't let his insolence slide any further. Dalton snaps back that his precious guardian saved him, calling him a coward. That's the spark. Our boy stares at the captain's sword and asks Dunkel if he happens to have a spare one. Later that night, deep in the forest, in front of a large boulder, Dunkel hands him the requested sword. He asks why on earth he needs it at this hour, and Clen says he wants to test something. He mentions the moves Delaney used earlier during the duel. Dunkel asks if he means the meteor's sword, and Clen confirms it. Something to check, he says Dunkel can head back inside first. Walking away, Dunkel thinks Clen still has lingering regrets about his lack of talent. But his body simply has no mana. And people without mana can never become knights. Besides, that technique was the meteor's sword, invented by the original Duke Ronald himself. Even with the perfect memory of the sword's path, replicating it should be flatly impossible. But inside Clen's mind, the memory is strangely, perfectly vivid. The footwork, the timing, the sword's trajectory, even the steady flow of mana behind it. The moment he opens his eyes, the entire scene around him shifts. Feeling that sudden presence, Dunkel spins around, asking what's happening and what that energy is. And then he freezes in shock. Our boy just performed the meteor's sword himself, striking the boulder and splitting it clean in two. Even he looked stunned. It was a clean, effortless cut through solid stone. Proof, undeniable proof, that he holds real power in his blade. Completely shaken, Dunkel rushes over asking how he did that. Clen admits he doesn't fully understand it either, but somehow it worked. The next morning, Aaron is a nervous wreck, asking what's going on. The priest himself asks the same thing, muttering that this can't be real. Apparently the young master can now hold his breath underwater for over a full minute. Arn, delighted, asks if the young master is turning into some kind of fish. Garrison, deadpan, suggests they hold the next purification ritual inside an aquarium. The moment our boy surfaces, he explodes, screaming that an aquarium is out of the question. And why in the world did today's ritual get even longer? Noticing him resurface, Garrison casually mentions he finished unusually fast today. Our boy asks what he means, and Garrison explains he sensed an ominous energy from his room this morning. Furious, our boy demands to know what ominous energy, complaining that this man harasses him for any excuse he can find. Watching quietly, the captain informs the young master that Lord Dalton has sent him an invitation. Clen asks who and hears it's Dalton, the same boy from the training grounds confrontation. The letter claims Dalton wants to apologize for that incident, which immediately puts Clen on guard. He doesn't believe for a second that boy actually wants to apologize. But reading further, he sees it's actually an invitation to a hunting contest. It's strange, considering everything that happened. This feels like an excuse to lure him out of the mansion. Curious, Dunkel asks if he's going, and Clen says he has no real reason to refuse. Besides, there's something he needs to confirm. He remembers replaying Deline's swordplay in his head, over and over, until it clicked. He finally understands. He can perfectly replicate any technique he witnesses just once. He doesn't know why, but the ability is undeniably real. Dunkel listens seriously and says he understands, then goes to prepare the carriage. To their surprise, the priest suddenly appears, announcing he's coming along to the hunting contest too. Furious, Clen demands to know who invited him and why he's tagging along. Garrison innocently asks if he doesn't remember saying it himself, about the ominous energy earlier. Later, inside the carriage, Arn dozes off comfortably on the priest's lap. Clen mutters that this is exactly why she shouldn't have come. He hands her a small pillow, warning her the western forest terrain is rough, and this first trip will be exhausting. The priest, oddly touched, gushes about how mature young master has become, doing such sweet little things. Indignant, Clen clarifies he's talking to Arn, not Garrison. Past the priest's nonsense, he starts noticing how much this land has changed. When he was last here, it was nothing but snow and corpses. That an icy battlefield could recover into something this green, in only 200 years, is exactly what he'd expect from Berkel. He really was different from the rest. Hours later, Dunkel opens the carriage door, announcing they've arrived at the Grand Conwell estate. Taken in the mansion, our boy thinks, so this is where that brat actually lives. It's even more extravagant than the main Heinland residence, one of the 3 great ducal houses. He reminds himself this is just a children's hunting contest. And yet these people have money to burn. The moment he steps inside, Dalton greets him surrounded by hunting dogs, asking what he's been reading so intently. He boasts about the tall ceilings and thick walls, asking if it matches the money his family squeezed from the Heinlands. He mocks that after 7 years locked in a monastery, Clem probably knows nothing about the world. But our boy is far more interested in how visibly starved these hunting dogs look. He asks since when a hunting contest turned into a tea party. Amused, Dalton says he expected exactly that kind of impatience, and reveals what he's prepared instead. He releases the dogs, explaining they've scattered food across half the mountain. A starving dog's sense of smell is up to 100,000 times stronger than a human's. Once those idiots take off after the scent, that's their chance to hunt them down with bows and arrows before they can taste anything. He grins, asking Clen if he sees now. This is what a real hunt looks like. Just then, a sleepy Arn wanders over, and Dalton looks her over dismissively. So this is the maid Clen brought along. He can't imagine what a little thing like her could do to earn that kind of loyalty. He tells her to accompany him instead, promising better work. Instantly, Clen grabs Dalton's wrist. Startled, Dalton demands to know what's wrong. Our boy tells him flatly to take his hand off her before he breaks it. Furious, Dalton yanks his arm free, calling him arrogant, then mounts his horse and orders the group to follow him. Clen mounts a different horse, telling Dunkel he'll be stepping away for a bit. Stay with Arn and don't follow, he says. Dunkel protests. Going alone out here is dangerous. Clen hands him something. A magical signaling scroll, single use, capable of sending different signals, usable even without any mana of his own. Tear it, he explains, and the link symbol will react and send a signal instantly. Quietly, he tells Dunkel that the priest followed them all the way here, and something must be up. If Clen disappears suddenly, it means something happened. Confused, Dunkel asks what exactly he means by something happened. Clen just repeats, if that man vanishes, tear the paper immediately. The symbol will appear on the back of his hand. He rides off, telling Dunkel he's counting on him. Hours pass and our boy trails Dalton's path through the forest, guessing he couldn't have gone far. Following the trail, he finally catches up, calling out and asking if he took his time. Dalton stands surrounded by fallen dogs, apparently killed during the hunt. Clen dismounts and asks what exactly he thinks he's doing. Dalton explains that the last prey he intends to kill today is him. Our boy asks flatly if he plans on killing him. Dalton confirms it. He'll cut off his head and toss it to Delaney. Then he'll tell everyone that the Heinland family is a complete joke, an empty shell without power or authority. He tells Clen they won't even get the chance to resist. At his signal, a group of mercenaries emerges from the trees. Someone announces that the Duke title will finally pass to the secondary bloodline. Dalton sneers that Clen should regret being born into such a pathetic family. Tomorrow, everyone will be saying that the decaying swordsman clan of the North, the young Heinland heir, died like dog food, and Dalton is betting his entire life on that reincarnation of Archmond rumor being nothing but a joke. Just then, our boy remembers Berkel's words about the future of children, and he starts laughing, right there, terrifying everyone around him. Confused, Dalton asks what's so funny if he's finally lost his mind. Clen's expression shifts completely. He calls Dalton a mere insect crawling in the air without knowing his place. This family was built on the price of his own death, and this pathetic worm dares to insult it, humiliate it, spit on it. He starts letting his power flow out, and even the sky above them turns blood red. Stunned, Dalton demands to know if this is magic, but Clen has 0 mana. That should be impossible. Our boy corrects him. This isn't magic. This is demonic energy. Dalton and the mercenaries share a terrified glance, wondering just who this person actually is. Dalton, remembering something, asks if he just said demonic energy. Without answering, Clen begins his chant, calling upon the ancient evil spirits buried by time, raising them into the light. He gives the order, devour, devour, and keep devouring. In disbelief, Dalton whispers his real name, Archmond. Our boy just laughs, ordering his undead soldiers to erase every last trace of these wandering souls. And as the words leave his mouth, something old resurfaces in him. He thought he'd nearly forgotten. 200 years feels like distant, hazy days. But he can still feel it. Countless voices echoing in the darkness, the dead calling his name. That resonance, that pull, that ache of nostalgia grabs him all over again. Back in the present, Dalton screams that this can't be real. Is he really Archmond? Our boy says simply, they used to call him that, yes. The mercenaries mutter to each other. Is it possible the rumor wasn't just a rumor after all? And are those things behind him actually skeletons? After a long, tense stare, they suddenly burst out laughing. Just a pile of worthless bone fragments. After all that dramatic buildup, this is all he's got to show them. Our boy asks calmly, what do you mean, worthless? Dalton insists it's obviously worthless. He's destroyed hundreds of skeletons on past missions. One mercenary asked why the bones look so black, wondering if they're even real bones. Dalton orders his men to cut down the ones blocking their path and clear the rest. The archers fire on his command, and a wave of arrows launches straight at Clen's small skeleton force. He stands there completely calm, as if the arrows weren't even flying toward him. Grinning, Dalton predicts Clen will be turned into paste under all those arrows. But at the last second, something strange happens. The skeletons move. They rush forward, raising shields, blocking the entire volley in perfect formation. Our boy, smiling now, says 200 years is a long time. Apparently nobody remembers these skeletons anymore. Terrified, the mercenaries ask where those shields even came from. Our boy tells them if these were ordinary skeletons, maybe they'd have a reason to be so confident. Curious and unnerved, they ask what kind of skeletons these actually are. He explains his skeletons are very, very different. Mentally, he asks his old friend Berk to watch closely. He orders his skeleton army to break formation and advance. And he thinks the North you protected, even after death, is about to watch these same people get torn apart. He gives the signal, and the skeleton army surges forward, crashing into the mercenaries. Dalton right in the middle of it. Panic erupts. How are these skeletons running like this? Dalton, trying to stay composed, tells his men not to fear mere skulls. But they're wrong. One mercenary is already cut clean in half. Others follow quickly after. In the middle of the slaughter, Dalton shrieks, demanding to know what they're doing, ordering the line held. On the other side, our boy calmly orders a second line of skeleton archers to encircle and lock their targets. Above the trees, skeletal archers take position, ready to fire. Terrified, the mercenaries realize their enemy has ranged units too. A complete impossibility. At his signal, fire. Bone arrows launch, and mercenaries drop before they even know the attack came. Trembling, Dalton insists this can't be happening. This isn't the kind of skeleton he knows. If this keeps up, they'll be completely wiped out. He orders his men to drop their bows and switch to melee, but of course, panic drowns him out. Confident, he claims skeletons are just cursed corpses, worthless. He beheads one, satisfied, saying if you aim for the head, they stay dead. But an instant later he's attacked again, barely dodging in time. He swears he cut that head clean off. What's happening? From the other side, Clen tells him, cutting off a head only stops normal undead. That's what people like him always assume. The headless skeleton simply crouches, picks up its own head, and reattaches it with its own hands. Clen knows this is exactly the trait that let him devastate the entire continent all those years ago. Shocked, Dalton just watches the skeleton reassemble itself right in front of him. Clen also knows that spirits summoned through demonic energy don't die easily, and they obey every tactic given to them. Watching this, the mercenaries wonder what these things even are, and why they keep coming back from the dead over and over. Our boy thinks, well, this body's skeletons have their limits for now. He looks at them and simply asks if they'd like to keep going. Terrified silence answers him. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Arn asks Dunkel if he wants to hear stories about young Master's childhood, calling them hilarious. Dunkel says he'll listen later, then notices the abandoned signaling scroll. He asks why the young Master would carry something meant only for emergencies. It's already been 3 hours since he and Lord Dalton entered the forest, and no word has come back. Dunkel's instincts are screaming at him. He saddles his horse, saying he can't wait any longer. He has to go find them now. Somehow, Snides stop him, insisting he can't abandon his post, that the hunting contest is still ongoing. The captain stares them down, recognizing the Conwell family emblem on their armor. These are Dalton's guards. There might be a hidden plan here after all. He announces he's captain of the Heinland exclusive knights, guardian of young Master Clen. If they keep interfering, he won't let it slide. The 2 guards stammer their apologies, backing off immediately. Arn asks if something happened, and the captain tells her to look. Young Master is taking far too long. He's leaving to find him now. Arn should go back to the mansion with the priest. But Arn mentions the priest already left too, which stuns Dunkel. He asks when, and why she didn't say anything. She explains Garrison had a very serious expression, so she didn't want to bother him. He said something about sensing an ominous presence. That worries the captain even more, cursing that priest under his breath. He remembers Clen's warning. If that man follows him this far, something is very wrong. He mounts his horse and tears the magic scroll, sensing this is far from a coincidence. He has to reach them as fast as possible. Back at the clearing, Clen realizes his demonic energy is nearly drained after that last fight. He can't summon much more right now. Watching him, the mysterious necromancer starts laughing, and our boy already knows he can't hold this body much longer. The necromancer orders his own army to move in and finish the young Master off. The mercenaries begin closing in slowly. Clen wonders if this is really a soul return technique, and whether they think matching his kind of necromancy will actually kill him. Just then, he feels the signal burn against his palm. Relieved, he tells the necromancer he's in serious trouble now. Confused, the necromancer asks what he means. The instant after those words leave Clen's mouth, an overwhelming presence drops from the sky, crushing dozens of undead in a single motion. Garrison chants, "O light, grant rest to the dead," and his devastating blow flattens a wave of enemies at once. He turns to Clen and tells him he can finally rest. Stunned, the necromancer demands to know who this is. He has no idea Garrison is an agent of the Holy Church. Only 3 living weapons in the entire order carry that title, obeying only the Pope himself. They are the strongest force in the order, the only ones permitted to wield the sacred relics. Weapons left behind by St. Gao, each one said to hold power comparable to a fortress. This tiny necromancer is about to witness that firsthand. And this particular agent, the one holding the title of raw physical strongest, is now standing in front of Clen. The undead army charges Garrison, hoping to kill him outright. But he destroys them one after another with his relic, an apparently sacred Bible. He announces they should pray, then seek forgiveness, and he'll grant them baptism by fire to atone for their sins. That, he says, is mercy. He walks through the undead, crushing each skull with the holy book, calling it judgment. Watching in horror, the necromancer thinks this is madness. Why is an order agent even here? And what kind of insane power is this? Once his entire army falls, the 2 finally face each other. He mutters that this wasn't supposed to happen, realizing defeating someone like this is completely impossible. Garrison grabs him instantly, asking where exactly he thinks he's going. The necromancer begs him to stop for a moment so they can talk. Without hesitation, Garrison says the prayer isn't finished, and he should be grateful this judgment didn't fall entirely on him. In the name of the light, he grants mercy, and crushes his head with his bare hands. What's left of his skull is a single eyeball, rolling slowly toward Clen. Garrison steps closer. Clen knows he only took one single step, moving forward without ever glancing back. But the mere pressure in the air shattered more than 20 bodies mid-flight. Garrison reaches a blood-soaked hand toward Clen's head. He explains he sensed a sinister aura from a necromancer and rushed here immediately, which leaves our boy completely frozen. With a small smile, Garrison admits he's curious about something, but this particular energy doesn't feel like that kind. Clen thinks this massive brute is actually far smarter than he lets on. He knows one wrong move, even the smallest slip, and Garrison ends him right here. Just then, Dunkel finally arrives, asking if young master is alright. Relieved beyond words, our boy is genuinely happy to see him. He really did save the day. He thinks exactly as expected. Using necromancy in this body was already too much. And with that, Clen collapses to the ground. Panicked, Dunkel runs over asking what's happening and whose blood this is. Our boy simply asks him to stop shouting, since he can still hear him fine. Curious, Dunkel asked where Lord Dalton is. Our boy tells him plainly he killed him. Dalton tried to have him assassinated. The next day, inside the family tribunal, Dalton's father erupts, insisting none of this makes any sense. He is Count Duncan Conwell, and his son is a knight of the order who understands honor and loyalty. It's an injustice that he died, and now he's being accused of murder on top of it. Shouldn't the real priority be finding the actual culprit? The patriarch tells Count Conwell that despite intense interrogation, Clen's story never changed. He mentions records showing roughly 20 private mercenaries were sent out from the Count's own territory at the exact time both boys vanish. In other words, it seems very clear that Dalton was planning something. Hearing this, the Count grows visibly anxious, unsure what to say. He privately thinks his men were fools. He told them clearly to leave no evidence. But he keeps yelling anyway, insisting Dalton was skilled enough to formally join the order. He asks if it isn't true that Clen has never once held a proper sword. The crowd murmurs agreement. They saw it themselves at the swordsmanship demonstration. Henkel himself confirmed his son has no mana. So, how could he possibly kill Dalton? The Count realizes there's no way around it now that Dalton has already failed. But if it comes out that his son tried to murder a direct heir, he's finished too. So he shifts tactics entirely. He asks what kind of person young Master Clen even is, questioning whether he's the son of Archduchess Claire, whose only legacy was strange rumors. Ever since that child started walking around, everything near him seems to circle back to Archmond. How can they trust the word of someone like that, accusing his dead son of being a murderer? Furious, the patriarch warns him to choose his words carefully, Count Conwell. The Count only shouts louder, claiming this proves Clen, jealous of Delion's talent, hired someone to kill Dalton, and now pins the blame on him. Before anyone can respond, a new voice cuts through the room. Enough of this. It's Clen himself, he says. Listening to this nonsense, he's decided he won't let it continue. He states plainly that Dalton hired mercenaries to kill him, and he eliminated them in self-defense. When that lunatic turned them into undead, Father Garrison arrived and helped him. The Count shouts that it's a lie. Clen asks calmly, a lie? Is it also a lie that he's Archmond? That leaves the Count completely speechless. Our boy finally steps fully into the game, thinking back to the vow he made when he killed Dalton. He'll raise this family, the one founded on his own death, with his own hands, and he won't let it be dragged through the mud by these worms. Those from the secondary families who dared touch him first will pay in blood. Just as he thinks this, someone knocks and enters, apologizing for the delay. The captain of the Blue Sacred Spear Knights, Laya, has just arrived. Our boy finally remembers her name, recalling she was also at the swordsmanship demonstration. He wonders what she's even doing here. The crowd murmurs the same question, since this is strictly a family matter. The patriarch explains he allowed it, since Dalton previously took missions from her order. Laya looks directly at Clen. Their eyes meet unexpectedly. She raises her hand, asking if it's no trouble to speak privately with young Master Clen. Confused, our boy wonders why she'd want to talk to him out of nowhere. After a moment, the patriarch permits it, as long as it doesn't take too long. Clen inwardly sighs, thinking he never understood why knights are always like this. Then he reconsiders. This is actually a good opportunity. Her reason for calling him aside must be one of three things: confirmation, suspicion, or a test. He tells his father he understands, and follows Laya through the mansion. Honestly, it doesn't matter which one it is, since once he sets a goal, he doesn't intend to run from it. He'll use whatever this is to his own advantage. When they finally enter a private room, she slams her foot on the table and steps toward him. Face to face, she asks if she can touch him. Nervous, Clen wonders if this is even appropriate. Before that, some context. Liafabum is the eldest daughter of one of the three great ducal houses alongside Heinland, and commander of the Blue Sacred Spear Knights. Official records state that during a monster extermination operation in the West, while scouting to protect civilians, she wiped out an entire pack of high-level monsters completely alone. Back in the present, she asks him plainly why he isn't coming closer. Slightly nervous, he says he's coming, and she warns him not to act like they're close, since they aren't even really family. Our boy remembers his father mentioning that his aunt is the Duke's second wife, making Lia technically his cousin, but he also knows she's the daughter of the first wife, which means, biologically, they share absolutely no blood at all. Once they're truly alone, she says this is purely personal curiosity, and shoves him against the door. She closes in fast, and Clen, confused, asks what exactly she means by that. She grabs his hand first, remarking it soft, smooth, no calluses, no scars. Almost like a baby's hand. He wonders, uncomfortably, why she keeps touching him like this. She continues, saying even well-trained swordsmen sometimes lack calluses, but certain parts always harden, below the index finger, on the inner thumb, where the grip presses. Tendons don't lie, she says. Still lost, he asks what any of this has to do with anything, and she asks flatly if he's truly never held a sword before. Read your own hands, she says. There's no trace he's ever wielded one in his life, and yet he claims to have defeated and survived against Dalton and 20 mercenaries. So she asks if perhaps he has some other kind of power. Startled, our boy pushes her back, asking if that's what this whole thing was actually about. Apparently she also wants to know if he's Archmond, or something close to it. Clen immediately recognizes this girl as dangerous. This isn't simple curiosity. That gaze is fishing for a reaction, not an answer. Silence becomes confirmation, and doubt becomes certainty. So the safest response is to act with even more confidence than she has. He asks her, and if it were true, that he is Archmond. She bursts out laughing, asking how a random boy like him could possibly be Archmond. That answer somehow enrages him more than an outright accusation would. Did she really just call him that? She insists it wasn't a mistake, repeating it, he's simply too small to be Archmond. His proportions don't help either. His voice, his build, none of it commands any respect. In short, he's just some boy, a perfectly ordinary boy. Clen's brain absolutely boils over with every negative emotion imaginable. The emotional damage, frankly, is severe. But she keeps going, saying if he's not Archmond, and doesn't know swordsmanship either, but still beat a trained knight, then, well, she'll give him a kiss if that's actually true. That leaves him more lost than ever, wondering why she'd offer something like that. He genuinely cannot think straight through the damage. Our boy wonders if this is some kind of political maneuver, or maybe even a bribe. She simply turns and walks away, saying it's getting late, they should head back. Then, almost as an afterthought, she mutters that Archmond would never. But before she finishes the sentence, the scene cuts. Young Master Clen and Miss Lia return to the ongoing trial. Our boy privately admits he was naive. Still the useless second son locked away by the Order for 7 years. But if he'd said he killed Dalton purely in self-defense, obviously no one would have believed him. Back inside, his father says now they can finally hear what he and Lia discussed. Before anyone can push further, our boy draws his sword and raises it for the entire room to see. Everyone freezes in shock as he points it directly at Count Conwell. He tells them all this needs to be settled personally. He orders the Count to stop wasting time and resolve this like a man, northern style. Through trial by combat, the room erupts. What did he just say? A trial by combat. As everyone knows, trial by combat is an ancient northern tradition, used when a conclusion can't be reached any other way. No restrictions on weapons or technique, and whoever wins the duel decides the verdict. In short, the winner writes the outcome. Stunned, the old Count asks if he genuinely wants a trial by combat, calling it far too sudden, demanding a reason why. Clen replies he has plenty of reasons, Count Conwell. He has proof Dalton tried to kill him first, then attempted to steal his identity, and in the process insulted his mother. Though privately he knows only half of that truly matters to him. He carries the name Clen, but his identity is Archmond, and he holds no real feeling for the second wife's mother. Still shocked, the Count insists young Master can't just decide something like this on a whim. Our boy tells him bluntly to decide quickly unless he intends to keep everyone waiting all day. The crowd starts murmuring, impressed that anyone still remembers this old tradition. Curious how this will unfold. The Patriarch declares that if it's a tradition dating back to the founder himself, they cannot simply ignore it. As the 7th Duke of Heinland, he guarantees the outcome will be decided purely by the duel's result. and all evidence presented so far will be invalidated the moment the duel concludes. That makes the Count pause. If the evidence gets validated afterward instead, this could still be his chance. He turns to the boy, asking if he's absolutely certain, since Clen supposedly has no mana. Does he intend to send another knight in his place? In his head, the Count is 100% certain he can kill this brat. Our boy says it doesn't matter. He'll finish him personally, exactly like he did his precious son Dalton. The Count finally agrees. The duel will happen in 4 days. Many will assume Clen acted purely on impulse, but he knows this is only the beginning. For Count Conwell, this is simply a stepping stone, a message sent to every secondary family in that room. He's about to show them exactly how he intends to rebuild this family. Back in his room, his older brother Delaney is already waiting, demanding to know if he's lost his mind, requesting a trial by combat. Does he even understand what that means? He could die. Our boy says he's already said 1,000 times he isn't going to die, and their father already approved it. He should just accept it. Nervous, Delaney reminds him that trial by combat allows a champion system, offering to fight in his place. Clen refuses, even if the secondary families scream and complain endlessly. There's only one reason they still bow to the North, because their father and their family hold the strongest sword. He asks if Delaney really wants to fight in his place, then tells him plainly to face reality. That would only hand them a legal excuse to kill the actual heir of Heinland. That leaves Delaney stunned. Our boy thinks it must be frustrating for him, unable to act freely just because he's the heir. But he also knows this trial is necessary to change how the family sees him. And for Delaney, there's no reason to simply hand this fight over on a platter. Still, Delaney confesses that when Clen was born, he was so excited to have a little brother he ran straight to see him. And what he saw, that first time, looked like an actual angel. It didn't matter they had different mothers. The Order tore them apart, and he waited 7 years just to have him back. And now this, a random trial by combat out of nowhere. He grabs Clen and tells him to listen carefully, insisting he'll fight in his place. Right then, Dunkel enters, apologizing for the interruption. Count Conwell has already chosen his champion, and our boy asks who. The captain explains his name is Handel, a knight exiled from the Empire who made a name for himself in combat. The reason for his exile was uncontrollable killing impulses. He'd kill and kill and kill like it was nothing but a game for his own pleasure. Handel himself, seemingly drinking the blood of his victims, muses to himself that he'll finally get to hear a child scream again, after so long. A few days later, Dunkel brings Clen the sword he requested, delivering it exactly as promised. He warns him to be careful, since the moment it clashes with a mono-infused blade, it will shatter. Our boy says that's perfect, and they can head to the duel now. On the day of the duel, his father is visibly stunned that he actually showed up, rather than fleeing. The Count mutters he can't believe he actually came in person, then turns to the Patriarch to confirm he's fine with this. After all, his champion is an Imperial Knight, potentially a huge problem for a boy with no mana. He suggests it's not too late to send Lord Delaney instead, but the Patriarch stays silent, just watching his son from a distance. Our boy paces the arena, wondering where his opponent is. A giant suddenly appears behind him, tapping his shoulder casually, asking if he's Lord Clen. Handel remarks he's much younger than expected, wondering what kind of dream he'll have when his neck snaps. To everyone's surprise, our boy instantly slips away from the touch. The crowd murmurs, wondering if he actually just ran backward before the fight even started. Someone even asks the Count if he saw that, noting how nervous he already looks. They start wondering if he can even survive this duel. Back in the arena, Handel remarks he already looks terrified, but our boy insists that's not it. Privately, he thinks that touch reminded him exactly of the moment that Cursed Priest once grabbed his shoulder, which, honestly, was far more terrifying. Watching from the stands is Laya, who mentions to the knight beside her that Lady Helion would be furious if she found out she's here. She dismisses the concern, saying that woman isn't even her mother. Privately, she thinks if he wins against that knight, she'll actually give him her lips. Obviously, she never says that part out loud. What she does say is that she's also here to confirm something. Back in the arena, our boy tells Handel his neck has been feeling stiff lately, so he'd better not touch his shoulder again. Handel ignores him completely, touching his shoulder once more. Furious, our boy snaps at him to stop touching him, calling him a pervert, asking if his ears are stuffed with muscle instead of brains. And thinking about it, that's probably exactly why the Empire exiled him. Delighted, Handel says this is excellent. The dirtier his mouth gets, the louder he'll make him scream later. He prepares to crush him instantly. Clen loosens the button on his coat and Handel's fist swings, meant to obliterate him whole. But when the giant looks down, all he's holding is a piece of fabric. Confused, he turns, muttering that something just shattered on the ground. What kind of monstrous strength does that? But Lord Clen has already vanished. When they finally locate him, our boy stands with his sword already drawn. He mutters that this brute has a terrible temper, but knows a direct clash would be brutal, given the sheer mass behind those hits. Even a glancing blow from that body would shatter bone. He genuinely dislikes admitting this isn't a fight he can relax through. Watching from the stands, young knights whisper that his dodge was decent. But how could anyone win against a monster like that? Even a graze would break every bone. It looks like he's simply walking toward his own death. Delaney watches anxiously, remembering that Clem previously said if he'd fought in his place, it would only hand them a legal excuse to kill the true heir. He accepts that his brother has a point, and that the family's future is at stake. He can't simply act on his feelings. Still, this isn't something he wants either. Finally, the duel begins in earnest, both fighters clashing at once. Our boy aims for the giant's neck, but Handel catches his sword and hurls it aside. With his sword now on the ground, our boy pauses. Handel tells Lord Clen it's over. Noticing the block earlier, he asks if he really thinks dodging and blocking alone will win this, and asks why he doesn't just use his necromancy, since he's supposedly the great Archmond. The crowd tenses, wondering why he'd say something like that. Handel stares at him, oddly calmer than before, and Clen returns the gaze with a truly terrifying expression, a demonic aura leaking off him. He remarks how irritating this is, and wonders aloud if he should just wipe them all out with necromancy right now. That instantly spooks the giant, who takes several steps back, leaving the crowd baffled at what just happened to Handel. Now completely unwilling to hold back against Clen, the giant, deep down, wonders what that was. Though logically there was nothing there. Still, that strange sensation, that sinister aura confuses him completely. Our boy's father watches the fight, visibly stunned. Back in the duel, our boy asks him not to worry, since he won't be resorting to necromancy. Because he's a Heinland, and he knows this trial is meant to prove one's worth through the sword alone. So he won't use necromancy here. That statement alone stuns his father, and the entire audience, leaving the count visibly rattled. For Handel, he assumes it was simply a coincidence, since he's still leagues ahead in endurance and raw strength. Besides, that brat has no mana, making victory over him logically impossible, since Imperial swordsmanship draws its power from mana itself, pushing every sense to its limit: breath, muscle, blood flow. One can strike with a single overwhelming burst of power. He charges forward, ordering Clen to die. You cursed Heinland. Our boy dodges at the last possible second, watching Handel's blade, and realizes he can see everything: the mana capacity, the arc of the swing, every fine detail of the technique. This only enrages the giant further, calling him a persistent fly that needs to die now. With monstrous power, he strikes again, but in the middle of the explosion and smoke, Clen simply disappears. Confused, Handel wonders if he really read the entire trajectory of that swing in such a short instant. It seems completely absurd. Little does he know, our boy is already right behind him. He tells him, with a body like this, his back is completely exposed. He activates the meteor sword, slicing a massive gash across Handel's back, shocking everyone watching, who instantly recognized the technique. Even his father and brother look stunned. Handel screams in pain, insisting this makes no sense. How can he do this without a single drop of mana? In the stands, the knight beside Leia asks if she just saw that too, calling her captain. Watching intently, she feels a small thrill at those movements, then looks slightly embarrassed, since her lips already have an owner. During the fight, the patriarch remembers a conversation from the day before with the captain, admitting he normally would have intervened himself. Duke Henkel knows he shouldn't act on personal feelings, that stepping in would only damage the family's already fragile reputation further. But the opponent is an Imperial knight, and Clen has essentially no chance of winning. To the patriarch's surprise, Dunkel asks why he even allowed this duel in the first place. His father explains that Clen volunteered to defend his late mother's honor, even after being easily labeled Archmond and locked away, unable to protect him even then. So what right does he have to stop him now? In the end, he couldn't protect anything, not his son, not his family. The captain reassures him not to worry, since young Master Clen is stronger than he realizes and won't lose this fight. Back in the present, our boy strikes at Handel again, and Duke Henkel freezes completely in shock. Our boy begins explaining, to everyone watching, that the Northern Swordsman clan, built to survive brutal frozen fields, minimizes mana consumption to the absolute limit. If Imperial swordsmanship is predation, releasing all mana at once to overwhelm an opponent, then this is temperance, striking cracks with the bare minimum needed. That is the essence of Heinland's swordsmanship. Our boy summarizes it as ultimate efficiency, extracting maximum result from minimal mana. That's exactly how a man with 0 mana can still wield his family's technique. He may lack power, he says, but it's still more than enough to beat someone like you. Furious, Handel roars that this insolent brat dares to face him head-on. He unleashes his full power at once, terrifying the entire crowd. Delighted, Count Cromwell recognizes Handel's secret technique. A mana burst that instantly seals an opponent's movement, like a predator cornering its prey. Handel screams that Clen is nothing but a fool, and in the end, victory will be his. He charges with everything, aiming to split Clen straight down the middle. Worried, the captain shouts a warning, but our boy blocks the strike, remembering Dunkel's exact warning that the borrowed sword would shatter against mana-infused steel. And that's precisely what happens. Watching this, Handel grins, calling out that this is exactly the end Clen deserves. But little does he know, this was planned from the very beginning. Using the shattered blade, our boy dodges the follow-up strike and advances, saying the weapon meant to hunt him is finally complete, like the illusion of a feather drifting slowly toward a mighty lion. In the end though, that lion turns out to be prey for a far larger eagle. With nothing but the broken half of his sword, Clen severs Handel's entire arm. From the stands, the patriarch declares, "That's enough, the duel is over." An uncomfortable, heavy silence settles across the arena. Captain Dunkel thinks exactly as the young master explained. Heinland's swordsmanship can be executed with minimal mana, but only by an incredibly experienced knight. And yet he pulled it off flawlessly, footwork to blade trajectory, deliberately luring his own sword to break so he could strike at point-blank range. Genuinely hard to believe, but no matter how you look at it, this is a perfect victory for young Master Clen. The only sound left is Handel screaming and sobbing over the loss of his arm. Medics rush into the arena, working urgently to stop the bleeding. Our boy watches from behind, asking if there's any way to reattach the arm. The doctor says no, basic healing magic is all they need, and instead they'll fit him with a prosthetic mold. Our boy asks if that's genuinely all modern medicine can do, surprised that even after 200 years, healing magic has barely advanced. Beside him, the patriarch asks if he really feels nothing looking at a wound like that. Privately, our boy thinks, right, he isn't Archmond anymore, so he should probably have some kind of reaction. Behind them, Count Cromwell protests that this doesn't make sense, asking how much money he spent hiring that night, only for Randall to lose. The patriarch faces him and tells him, as agreed, he must admit his mistake and meet the winner's demands. The Count refuses outright. He lost his son and his exclusive knight. How can he possibly? Right then, he feels as though his own head is being ripped off, purely from the weight of Clen's gaze, calling his name directly Del Conwell. Instantly, the Count drops to his knees in raw terror, staring at our protagonist in horror. Clen approaches slowly, and the confused, terrified Count remembers his neck being cut, or at least, he was certain it had been. Our boy declares that as the victor of this duel, he orders him to confess his sins before the Master of the North, kneel, bow his head, and beg for mercy, because he will be crushed beneath the weight of his own sins, and regret this for all eternity. He unleashes a wicked ability that seeps directly into Conwell's very being. The Count feels a Lord of Death standing behind him, ready to drag him somewhere far worse than death itself. Teeth chattering in fear, he confesses to everyone that he was wrong, bowing before Clen. He admits that his son, and he himself, dared to try and hurt young Master Clen. Watching this, our boy remembers this technique used to be called the voice of the dead, a soul disruption art exclusive to necromancers, inducing pure terror in the living. Right in front of the whole arena, the Count keeps slamming his head into the ground, saying he's sorry, so unbelievably sorry. He adds that he insulted young Master's mother, Grand Lady Clara, and begs for forgiveness. Clen thinks, seeing this humiliation laid bare, it makes sense that this is what breaks a man completely. The crowd murmurs, stunned that an entire secondary family pillar could collapse so suddenly. For Clen, though, this is only the beginning, and honestly, a great start. He asks everyone to listen closely to what he has to say. He is the challenger of this trial by combat, and its rightful victor, the son of the great Lady Clara of Alesis, and the second son of the strongest knight in the north, Berkel Heinland. And his name, he declares, is Clen Hay. Elsewhere inside a distant temple, a door opens and Garrison steps in, watching an old priest praying nearby. The elder prays that even the dangerous path, the painful one, be watched over by the god of light. Approaching him, Garrison addresses him as Cardinal Maroc. Recognizing his voice, the old man notes it sounds dark, and asks what's wrong. Garrison explains his surveillance target was attacked by a necromancer and his undead, and he needs to verify something. The cardinal reassures him there's no need to worry, that everything is part of the plan. He explains the necromancer was sent as a comparison against the Empire, an entity meant to incite fear, and those terrified by his presence would inevitably turn to God. Countless people would migrate to the Holy Order as a result. He turns to Garrison, saying he should understand this well. If they can revive the Order's influence and spread God's will through only a handful of sacrifices. Before he can finish, Garrison grabs his throat, demanding how a servant of the sacred temple fell into petty political games and struck deals with heretics. Genuinely shocked, the old man asks what he thinks he's doing. Before he can call for help, his head is destroyed, exactly the way he once destroyed a necromancer himself. Behind Garrison, another figure appears asking if he feels better now. Noting he hasn't changed at all over the years, Garrison turns, privately thinking he's killed more clergy than actual necromancers, and that they should probably know what he's truly capable of. This new man is the Archbishop of the Holy Order, Palamon. Garrison asks him bluntly if this was his doing. Palamon says of course not, he simply authorized it, and reveals he's brought information related to Garrison's surveillance target. When Garrison lunges to strike him, he dodges effortlessly, remarking that necromancy inevitably leaves a trace behind. He explains this cross contains those traces, and it belonged to the necromancer Garrison killed earlier. One is a soul return art that raises corpses, which the Empire is actively researching. The other, he says, resembles the original form of necromancy, one that manipulates souls instead of bodies. Garrison asked what he means by the original form of necromancy. Palamon confirms it, which means there were two necromancers at that scene. So he should listen very carefully. His surveillance target, the second son of the Heinland family, is truly a necromancer. Somewhere else entirely, on a rainy night, an old miner works quietly deep inside a mine. What he doesn't know is that something enormous has been watching him this whole time, and even his screams for help never reach anyone else. Back at the Heinland estate, sweet little Arin, holding a small doll, laughs to herself, admitting it turned out looking exactly like young master, and this really is a disaster. Sitting quietly, our boy reflects that a week has passed since the trial by combat, that he beat Handel, forced Cromwell's confession, and revealed his existence publicly to every secondary family present. He thought he'd finally be recognized by everyone, but the real problem now is that this 15-year-old body simply can't keep up with everything he's asking of it. And still, for the first time in 200 years, Archmond finally has something worth building. A family, a name, and a future he intends to earn with his own hands.